it's Michelle with Pink and Maine. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to be creating some cards with our fun Polly and Pete series. Let's jump right into our first card, which is an A2 side folding card. The first thing I want to do, we're going to be adding some flock to this card. Super fun. If you've never played with flock before, I encourage you to give it a try. It gives such a unique look and feel to your cards. So I've got a piece of striped pattern paper from our Be Merry paper pad. I've added our 1/4 inch easy tear tape to the edge of this pattern paper, and I'm just going to peel away the release paper. We're going to be using our sparkling Santa's hat flock that has glitter in it. So it's flock and glitter, so you're going to get the look and feel of both. And I'm just doing it over my card base to collect the excess to put back in the jar. Now flock can be a little bit chunky, so you just want to be careful as you pour it out of your jar. We just want to get enough of this on that tape to cover it completely. We're going to tap it off. And we're going to kind of rub it in. I'm going to put it back into the flock and kind of press it down just to get as much as we can to stick to that tape. Want it nice and thick. Tap the excess, and I'm going to put the rest of this back into our jar to use later. I'm just going to rub this into the tape here, just to kind of burnish it and get any excess that's not really sticking to the tape to come off. I'm just going to tap it, and I just use one of our Scrub It Clean cloths, microfiber cloths, just to clean up that tiny thin layer of excess glitter and flock off my work surface. And here we have that striped paper. It's got a little bit of glitz to it, but if you feel it, it's so soft and fuzzy, it feels like velvet. It's just such a fun look, texture, and feel for your cards. So we're going to glue this down to the bottom of the card base. With our zigzag circle dies, I've cut a piece of green cardstock, and then I just cut part of it off of one of the sides here, and I'm going to glue that down, just butt it right up against that striped pattern paper. I've stamped the sentiment fa la 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 la, and I'm going to adhere that down to the bottom here. And now it's time to add Polly and Pete. I'm using the Polly and Pete caroling set, so they are singing carols. And I've added foam adhesive to the back of them, but I kind of want to place them before I stick them down. I want to see where they're going to be standing, because we're going to add a couple of musical notes around the card. We'll add one there. Let's add one there, almost going off the card. We'll add one here. And then we have a second musical note that I'm going to add as well. These are our clear blocks. They have nice little grips around the edges because they're kind of bumpy. And they're tinted pink. So they're super clear, but they just have a tint of pink, so they're fun. You know, I love pink. So now we have some musical notes stamped, so we can add Polly and Pete. So Polly is a polar bear, and Pete is an adorable penguin. And here's our card with the Polly and Pete carols set. Aren't they sweet? Our next card is an A2 size top folding card, and we're going to be using the Polly and Pete gifts set. So in this set, we've got Polly the polar bear and Pete the penguin, and they each have a gift for each other. So super cute and fun. Gonna make a simple card. I've cut out with our scalloped rectangle dies this piece of red glitter paper. Now I've cut an oval out of it before, but you're not going to even know that when I add this stitched rectangle piece over the top of it. So let's glue these down to the card base. Remember, when adhering to glitter paper, you want to use a nice strong glue or adhesive, such as a liquid glue. That glitter paper is textured, so it's going to be difficult to hold with some of the tape runners. Now I've just cut out one of our double-stitched hearts out of this green with stars pattern paper from our Be Merry paper pad, and I'm just going to put that up towards the top of our card. And that's going to be the spot where Polly and Pete are going to be. I've also got the sentiment, sending Christmas cheer, that I'm going to add up to the top there. So I'm kind of putting my pieces together before I adhere them down, just to see if I like the placement. So I've added foam adhesive to the back of Polly and Pete and the sentiments. They all kind of stand up on the card. So now we're ready to add our pieces. And here's our finished card. I love the simplicity of this card with that pop of glitter for sparkle and shine. I think it turned out really cute. For our next card, we're going to do some more flocking. So this time I have a little strip of plaid paper from our Be Merry paper pad. I've put our 1/4 inch easy tear tape on both sides of that plaid paper, and it's going to go across our card base. So we have an A2 size card base again that's side folding, and on the front of the card base I've used our Blizzard stencil and just a nice blue ink, and with our ergonomic blender brush I just created an ink blending background with that Blizzard stencil. It was super simple and quick. I'm going to use our sparkling Santa hat again, so we've got some glitter in with that flock. I'll just remove the release paper from the tape. And I'm just adding the flock with the glitter to the adhesive tape. I'm going to take a moment just to rub that into the adhesive so it will stick permanently. Oh, it's so soft and fuzzy. I love that. And now we can just add the excess back into the jar. Now we're ready to finish our card. So I'm going to take our little plaid strip that's a little sparkly and a little fuzzy and glue it down to our card front. The next thing we're going to add to the card is I cut out one of our double stitch domes out of white cardstock, and this is going to be the spot where our Polly and Pete are going to sit. And this is Polly and Pete in the Jolly set. And I've stamped the sentiment, "'Tis the season to be jolly." I'm just going to add this to the side of that little plaid strip. Now we'll just adhere Polly and Pete down to the card. And here's the card. Aren't they sweet? For our last card, we're gonna make kind of a fun folding card. So imagine I have two top folding A2 size card bases, but look, I've cut a diagonal piece out of the front of each card. So if you open it up, it looks like this. I just put it in my paper trimmer and just cut it at a diagonal there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna glue them together so that we get the two triangle pieces opening up out to the sides. So I'm gonna glue these two card bases together. I like to stand it up on the table as I'm gluing these together. That way it helps me to get them square and straight. So now we have a card, kind of looks like an envelope from the front. So it opens up to one side and then to the other, just like that. It's just a fun, different folding card. So for the inside of our card, I've cut two layered rectangles, one of this star pattern from the Be Merry paper pad, and another from this really pretty green glitter paper. So I'm gonna layer those and glue them down on the inside of the card because you see the inside of the card when you close it. So now the inside of the card looks really pretty, and you can always write or stamp your sentiment to the recipient on the inside of one of the flaps that fold in. Now for the outside of these flaps, I've just cut pattern paper to go on them. So for an A2 size card, this polka dot piece here, for example, I cut 4 inches by 5 1/4 and cut it corner to corner on the diagonal, and it'll fit nicely right here on this flap, and it has a nice white border around the edges. So here's our card base so far. It opens up this way and this way. Now, if you wanted to, you could also use the extra diagonal piece that you cut from these. You could use it on the inside, and you could decorate the inside as well. So for the front of the card, we're using the Polly and Pete wreath set. So here's Polly and Pete, and they're holding a wreath. Again, with those adorable little smiles on their faces. I've cut 2 pieces from our layered oval dies, one in this really pretty red glitter paper, and then white cardstock. And this is gonna be the spot where Polly and Pete are gonna sit on the card. So I'm gonna glue these ovals together. So now I'm gonna glue my set of ovals to the front of the card. But I don't want to glue down the right side over here, or else my card will not open. You only want to glue it to this piece of the card front over here. So I just lay it down, and then I'm going to guesstimate where to put my glue. So now here's our card so far. We've got our oval on the front, and it opens up like so. Now we're going to add Polly and Pete to the front. I've added some foam adhesive to the back of them so they kind of stand up off of that oval a little bit for some added dimension. So now we're just going to place them down on that oval. The sentiment for this card is die cut from our Christmas greetings dies. I die cut the season's greetings in a silver foil cardstock. Out of green cardstock, I cut that shadow that goes behind it. Now I had played around at first with moving the oval up and putting the season's greetings underneath Polly and Pete, but I felt like it was too busy and too much for the front of the card. So I decided to leave the front just with Polly and Pete on their oval. And then when we open up the inside of the card, I was going to put the season's greetings right there on the inside. I want to make sure that our oval covers it up from the outside so you don't see it bumping up out there. And that looks about perfect. So let's glue that down. Here's our finished card. I just think that's really fun, the way it opens. It's just something different. So thanks again for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed these cards we created with our Polly and Pete collection of stamps and dies. You can find these and more at pinkandmain.com or ask your local retailer. Until next time, my friends, keep living the creative life.